Dr. Manhattan, a being unbound by time and can change the multiverse from what we know it. Superman, the last son of Krypton, and if wanted can shatter reality with one punch. Captain Nathaniel Atom, a quantum being who can control the Speed Force. These three characters are very powerful in their own rights. So what if I told you there was a being considered all three of them? And today I'll be talking about that individual. Get ready because this is one of the strongest characters I've spoke about yet. This is Quantum Superman Explained. Quantum Superman is a character made by Grant Morrison and seems to be inspired by three stories: Dr. Manhattan, Superman, and Captain Atom. He's a being that rarely appears in comics, so when a video is made about him, there's not much information. So hopefully I've obtained enough info to give an adequate response on his character. Quantum Superman, or in other words, Alan Atom, comes from Earth 4, where in his universe, he's the only superhero. He's partnered on a team that consists of Blue Beetle, Nightshade, The Question, and Peacemaker. Oh, and their commander is Quantum Superman. Now, like I said, Quantum Superman doesn't appear in many comics, but in one of the comics he does appear and he plays a humongous role: Final Crisis. And I know, Final Crisis is a comic I talk about a lot, so I'll just put the plot in summary. So we all know the Man of Steel Superman. Yeah, this comic is revolved around him. Clark's wife Lois Lane was dying, so a being known as the Monitor offers him a deal. She offers him something called the Bleed. It heals anyone he wants them to heal, so obviously, you know, Lois Lane, but she will only give it to him if he fights a being called Mandrak. And just to note, Mandrak is capable of consuming multiverses. To learn more about Mandrak, you should check out my Cosmic Armor video. Now that we got that out the way, we can finally get into the role of Quantum Superman. So the Monitor had a couple other Superman come along. So let's have a quick history lesson on who they are and what role they play. Captain Marvel from Earth 5 comes from a nicer and simple world than the regular Shazam. He seemed to be picked to bestow his astonishing wisdom in order to help Superman become this ultimate armor to defeat Mandrak. Next is Overman. He's from Earth 10. He landed in the Nazis' territory, which they won the Second War. On his universe, English is a dead language. His role seems to be to protect Zilovala. She is the Monitor who picked Superman to fight Mandrak. Now we have Ultraman, Superman's counterpart from Earth 3. In this world, good and evil from the original Earth are now reversed. The Justice League he's a part of there is called the Crime Syndicate, and they're the world's greatest villains. His role seems to be exploding himself with Superman in order to elevate him to a higher dimension. Sadly, as we know, Ultraman isn't a good person and he sided with Mandrak. Finally, we're at Quantum Superman. We already discussed where he's from and how his universe works. So Quantum Superman's role was pretty important, and it took a lot of power. When these Supermans run this weird multiversal adventure, they crash landed into Limbo. Superman and Shazam read this infinite page book, yada yada yada. If you want to learn more, go watch my Cosmic Armor Superman video. Back on track, we revealed something interesting about his powers. Drugs are a pretty bad substance. Here are some few listed side effects. It can make you dizzy or tired. Sometimes it can change you into a zombie. I mean, have you guys heard of some of the Flocka cases? When people are not themselves and do cannibalism.
He was biting the slain victim's face. Police believe Haruf was high on bath salts or another synthetic drug called Flocka. Police say he had superhuman strength.
It can clearly do a lot of things, but how does any of this connect to comics? So it's later revealed what Quantum Superman does is take drugs to damp himself. So drugs is kind of a way to limit his quantum senses and hold his power back. This is why when it starts wearing off, he says he feels like his old self. This is why right after he says his mind is probing everywhere, even beyond infinite. His limits are shut down. And then he becomes really powerful, but we'll get into that in a little bit. The government has said it. He said it himself, he needs stronger drugs. So there's definitely some type of drug substance involved in de-amping his power. And I know you're probably asking, what happened when his limiter is off? Well, he gets really powerful. So for one, we already know his senses extend beyond everything, even beyond the infinite. And after this happened, this guy literally became omnipresent and omniscient. His body started duplicating itself everywhere. And as we know, his mind was also going everywhere and actually started understanding the void. If you don't know what the void is, let me put this in simple terms. Here is the multiverse map. This is the entire multiverse, everything in DC, and beyond it is the void. It is described as the white page and encompasses all multiverses, an infinite amount of them. In this guy's mind, went beyond infinite multiverses and started understanding this whole void. And that takes an incredible amount of power because anybody normal would literally get their mind destroyed. He's also now narratively aware of the story because his conscious was going into Neil and processing the cosmic armor that Superman wore. Which, if you didn't know, this place I'm talking about is the area they tell the stories. And this is when we get into his role. Quantum Superman was the only person powerful enough to transport Superman into Neil. He is literally reality warping Superman into a dimension that sees the multiverse as a germ. And if you think I'm done, no. Like I said, Quantum Superman doesn't have many appearances, but in the ones he does appear in, it's insane. In Multiversity Pax Americana, Quantum Superman explains the way we see comics is the way he sees the multiverse. It's nothing but a story to him where he can see past, present, future, and he knows what's gonna happen. Which is why right afterwards, when the government tries to attack him, he just predicts it and leaves. In Final Crisis Secret Files, they claim he's one of the strongest beings in the multiverse. The government has called him an unkillable autist. He sees all directions at one time. The future is a doorway to him. The past is a doorway to him. Now that we have his power and abilities out the way, I want to cover one last thing. You remember how I said this character is considered to be 3 others? Well, let's get into that. Case number 1, Dr. Manhattan. Manhattan was originally known as John Osterman until a quantum experiment. Now he showcases his really powerful abilities in Doomsday Clock. Manhattan and Quantum Superman are very similar. They're both unbound by time, they're both quantum beings, they both can alter the multiverse, and both have the same atom sign on their head. And they honestly look the exact same. Now in terms of who's stronger, I would probably say Quantum Superman. The feat of Neil and the Void is definitely a better feat than anything Manhattan has done. Now our next case is a bit more simple. Case 2, Captain Nathaniel Atom. Alan Atom was atomized, eventually turning him into Captain Atom, and his powers are off the charts. He made it clear when he interacted with the Flash that he can control the Speed Force. Now the reason I say this one is very simple is because all Quantum Superman is Alan Atom from a different Earth. And Clark Kent isn't any less simpler, which leads us to Case 3, Superman. Rocket from a dying planet, Clark Kent is one of the strongest superheroes, and one of the best superheroes. So once again, in Multiversity Pax Americana, they basically view Quantum Superman as their Superman. He's the only savior in their reality, and he's the one doing all the work, which is why they call him Quantum Superman of Earth 4. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Quantum Superman explained. And that is Quantum Superman done. Let me know what video you want me to do next, and I'm out.